Good afternoon and welcome to the Arizona Adventure. My name is Claudia Willemse and I am your host. Today we will take you on many adventures all across northern Arizona. But I won't be going on this adventure alone.
My name is Robin de Bond and we will be learning how to stay safe during all our adventures together, with some help from my guest, the Chairman of Search and Rescue, Justin Denardi. Justin, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. What are some of the basic rules that you have to keep in mind while going on an adventure?
You know, Robin, basic rules that you want to keep in mind when you're going on an adventure is really proper trip planning. You want to know where you're going. You want to let others know when you're going to be coming out so they know when to expect you. And let them know if you're not making that ETA to start maybe making these calls for help. Additionally, you want to make sure you're carrying some of what we call the 10 essentials: extra water, extra food, extra warm clothing, the ability to start a fire, maybe a signaling mirror or a whistle, extra shelter, GPS, and maybe a charger for your cell phone, as well as your cell phone itself.
Exactly. Prepare, take all your gear.
Over-prepared is just right.
Okay, nice.
You never know when you're going to spend the night on a cliff, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. We will go into more depth about safety later on. But first, I had a chance to go to Lake Pleasant to discover a popular water sport. Let's watch. We're here at Lake Pleasant in Peoria, Arizona, the third largest tourist attraction of the state. We're about to go on a boat trip to check out one of the fastest growing water sports.
Although Arizona is known for its deserts, water sports are very popular here. Lake Pleasant's marina is actually a hub for thousands of people to visit on a weekly basis to play in the water.
I mean, Arizona is very diverse. Everything from the mountains and the ski resorts in the north part all the way to the dry deserts down in the Yuma area.
Of all the water sports here, wake surfing is one of the most exciting.
Well, wake surfing has become very popular here, so we have a lot of wake surf competitions that go on the lake. It's the boating in general. A lot of people just come out and just to swim and cool off.
But what is wake surfing exactly? Well, who better to ask than the current world champion, 18-year-old Connor Burns.
Wake surfing is pretty much where you're surfing behind the back of a boat. You're just about like 14 feet behind the boat. You fill the boat up with water, obviously like the boat's meant for it, and then it makes a big enough wave that you can surf, and then your feet aren't attached, you're using a surfboard. People like wax it up like an ocean surfboard, or they just use like different traction. Kind of the tips that I tell people that are first learning how to wake surf is, so you just get the rope in your hands, you're leaning back, you have your heels up on your board, the driver will give it some gas, and then you just push really hard on your heels, the board will come up against your feet, and then just slowly work your way up, and then you'll just go to the outside of the wave and just keep weight on your back foot, let the wave form, and then slowly work your way in, and then just get used to how it feels riding in the wave, and then you can throw the rope in.
Well, that seems easy enough. Let's get into the water and give it a shot.
All right, and go.
It would be an understatement to say wake surfing is harder than it seems, but for 13-year-old Riley Steffen, it seems effortless.
I'm a female outlaw wake surfer, and outlaw is basically just a semi-pro. Wake surfing is just extremely fun, and it makes me feel happy, and I have a really big passion for it, and the community always makes you feel safe, and it's just awesome all the way.
Even though this is obviously a water sport, it shares a lot of tricks and features with another famous land sport.
Wake surfing tricks are very similar to skateboarding tricks. A lot of the names come from skateboarding. Like there's little tricks like ollies, in airs, in shoves, 360s, air 3s, air 180s, like all those tricks.
Riley is the world champion of the semi-pro division, and Connor is the world champion overall.
Which is super exciting. Like I wasn't planning on really trying to hold that #1 spot this year. I just wanted to make sure I kept it just fun and just keep doing it for the love of the sport and stuff like that. But it ended up working out, so I'm still #1, and I'm gonna end up trying to take it again for 2019. So.
Wake surfing is a pretty low-risk sport. You're going a lot slower than you're going with wakeboarding, which minimizes the impact. Your feet aren't attached, so you can't get whipped into the water, and you're wearing a life jacket. It is one of the safer water sports that there is.
Even though Arizona is known as a very dry state, there's actually a lot of fun to be had on the water and to keep cool. As we know, water safety is very important. You have to wear a life jacket. But what are some of the things that people forget about?
Here in Arizona, you really want to be careful with your hydration and make sure you're wearing plenty of sunscreen. Remember, the Arizona sun can be just absolutely brutal. It can really cook you out really quick. Know the rules of the water, especially when you're working in heavy trafficked lakes. You want to make sure that you have the ability or at least a plan to rescue others. Say if you took a hard hit in the water, I want to make sure I have an ability to get you out and make sure you're safe, breathing, and back in the shade and get you back to shore.
Yeah. Is there a like a community feeling? Do people help each other out?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's always recognition when you're driving around in the lake. People can see other boaters that are in distress. You'll always be watched after with the sheriff on the water. Make sure that you do know your signaling flags for when you have folks online in the water and you're not actually in motion. You want to make sure no one's going to come over your lines, take up your ropes, and just keep everyone safe, honestly.
Okay, very clear. That's
Yeah.
nice. Well, back to you, Claudia.
You must be really sore from a day at Lake Pleasant. Although it seems like a lot of fun to practice wake surfing, I'm afraid of being underwater. Maybe dirt biking or rock climbing suits me better. Our reporter Maartje Bogert gave it a try. Let's take a look.
Climbing is just as much of a mind game, if not more mind game often, than it is a physical experience.
Near Sandy's Canyon at a climbing area called The Pit. Here we meet Hunter Wagley, who says he discovered rock climbing when his dad took him out for the first time.
He got us all set up with the shoes and the gear and taught us how to tie all the right knots and brought us up here to this very spot. Actually was one of the first places that I ever rock climbed.
To avoid any risks, Hunter has special climbing equipment, such as a harness, steady shoes, and safety hooks.
Double, triple, quadruple check your gear. Make sure that your knots are tied correctly. Make sure that your partner's knots are tied correctly. And then you always want to make sure that your harness loops are always fastened in the correct force.
After making sure you are safe, the climb can begin. It might look easy, however it is physically and mentally challenging.
Sometimes I'm scared. A lot of the time I'm scared. I mean, sometimes you're really high up. This route we're sitting underneath almost goes 100 feet. I like to kind of try and harness that fear, right? Don't fall. How do I not fall? Keep climbing. You feel tired. Sometimes you're halfway through a climb and your muscles in your arms are burning and your fingers are just kind of peeling off the wall and you just want to give it one more move, one more go. But then of course, after all of that fear and after all of that exhaustion and you finally finish out the route and you clip your last anchor and you get to pop off the wall, relax as your belayer catches you from below, it's really satisfying. Really relieving too.
After all Hunter taught me about rock climbing, it was time for me to try it out.
So this was really inspiring and extreme. Let's go to the next Arizona adventure. In the meantime, I'm just hanging out.
Next up, we're at Cinder Hills to meet Sander Gapfridge. He has been riding dirt bikes for 16 years and raced for about 12 of those.
When I'm on my bike, I kind of turn everything else off. My family used to say when I was racing that I was a completely different person because normally I'm very talkative. When I'm racing and when I'm on the bike, I'm very quiet, very focused, and the only thing that's really going through my mind is what I'm doing.
Sander says one of the main reasons he loves dirt biking is the chance to experience Arizona.
You see a lot of nature out here. It's nice to be up here with the clean air, going through the trees. It's really beautiful.
Sander is not the only one that's into dirt biking. His family also loves to hop on the bike sometime.
My mom, my dad, and my little brother, we all have bikes. My little brother has my old bike, and he's catching me. He's getting good.
After Sander was done with dirt biking, I tried to hop on that bike. But just like rock climbing, I was a complete failure.
I hope you had as much fun as I did. I am Maartje Bogert. Let's go back to the studio. Those activities still look a little extreme for me. But isn't it amazing how people find so many interesting ways to enjoy the outdoors here in Arizona? What do you think, Robin?
It looks like a lot of fun to me, but we know that these sports can be very dangerous. Justin, are there a lot of accidents that happen with people who practice these sports?
You know, we've seen, even with the most experienced climbers, that most accidents happen when they're on rappel or after they've made their climb and they're making their way back down or they're top roping down to begin their climb. We always encourage everyone to wear a helmet because you're never planning to get injured. I know most people that are out there climbing, they're taking their lead. They've been doing this for years. It's a sense of complacency. They become too comfortable in the element, and that's where we start making our biggest mistakes. And that's where people really start getting hurt.
Yeah, so don't overestimate yourself.
Don't overestimate yourself. Just make sure you're comfortable with where you are, but not too comfortable, but always take the proper precautions because you're never planning to get hurt, are you?
Exactly, no, exactly.
Right.
Over-prepare.
Over-prepare.
Exactly. Well, moving on from these land sports, let's go into the clouds with ziplining and treetop adventure courses. Do you have any advice for these high elevation adventures?
Again, being up here in northern Arizona, you're at an elevation here in Flagstaff, 7,000 feet, upwards to 12 when you're up on the mountain. Exposure. The sun can be brutal. UV index is really high up here. You want to make sure you're hydrated, you're well nourished, and you got plenty of sunscreen. Especially if you're coming up from the valley or you're coming in from on a weekend trip, you're flying into Los Angeles, you're driving up to Flagstaff, you want to go hike the mountain, and you want to go down to the canyon later. You're really putting yourself through some brutal environments and a lot of different climate changes. If you start feeling lightheaded, if you start feeling ill, you might be experiencing symptoms of altitude sickness or heat exposure, heat illness. Take a break, sit back, get in the shade, get some water, and if you're really not recovering, call for help. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, so people that are from the area, they are obviously adjusted to the altitude. So tell me about tourists and how they adapt to.
Tourists, you know, they have an ability to adapt. We encourage people, if you're looking to actually climb Humphreys, our mountain here in Flagstaff or here in Arizona, the highest peak, that you take a little bit of time to become acclimated, that you have some proper training, and then you get an early start. You know, if you're coming up from the valley or coming up from Los Angeles and you're planning to do a hike like that, plan to start it early. Drink plenty of water, get some miles in, and if you start seeing signs of monsoon weather, some lightning, electrical activity, get back down. It's not worth it. Don't get summit fever. We don't want you to be up on the saddle, get exposed to such elements where we then have to help you, and then we're delayed in actually getting out there because we are practicing safety for ourselves and we can't really get up in that area. So
Exactly, and because the sun is so intense, you probably also need to plan on what time, because maybe like in the middle of the afternoon, it's not the best time to climb.
Right, yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that you have plenty of time, you're climbing in the shade, and then once you're finished with your climb, you have plenty of time to get back to your vehicles safely.
Exactly. Eat your food, drink your water, check your sunscreen, as you said.
Right,
Yeah,
and keep your trip itinerary, make sure that you're contacting people so they know when you're coming back. Check in with them if you're running late, otherwise they're going to start worrying for you.
Yeah.
They might start mobilizing us. And
Exactly.
We want everyone to come home safe
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Connor,
I really
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yeah. Well, let's go on our last adventure.
Hi, we're at Wildlife Park Out of Africa to have an adventure in the sky. Let's go! Out of Africa is a wildlife park where you can see a variety of different animals from a unique point of view. Robin Breyer is the man who built this giant zipline over Out of Africa.
I saw an opportunity to create a zip line here in Arizona. We were the first zip line in Arizona, and we were the first zip line in the world to allow their customers to go over lions, tigers, bears, zebras, giraffes, rhinoceros.
The zipline course consists of 5 lines and a bridge. The last one is the longest one, and 3 people can come down at the same time.
We call it the racing raptor because a raptor is a bird of prey.
Even though you're hanging above dangerous animals, Breyer says you're completely safe.
Our guides are so well trained. It's a very safe zip line. We've never had an accident here. There's always the unexpected thing that happens, like someone who's too light will come down the zip line and they won't make it to the other end, and we have to go retrieve them off of the zip line.
Now that we know the risks involved, let's gear up. Once you're up in the air, the view is amazing. You can see all kinds of different animals.
Our guides tell you about the different animals as you zip line. Most of the ones you go over are carnivores. That's how we got the name Predator Zip Line.
After this once-in-a-lifetime experience flying above animals, we're heading to another adventure that will also take us above the ground. They call this place Flag X, and it's described as an extreme adventure park. There are multiple obstacle courses to work your way through.
Our course is a little different because we are all on trees. A lot of courses are built on telephone poles or just the wooden poles.
The park is located in the largest ponderosa pine forest in the world. It has a total of 5 courses and you start with the demonstration course before you can do the actual ones.
The graduation system, so once you finish the first course you can move on to the next one.
Davidson says the experience is more intense the higher you go.
Being at high altitude, Flagstaff Extreme is a little bit more challenging because we are up in trees. It's really nice to be swinging from tree to tree, but it can be also very tiresome being at 7,000 feet.
Being this high up might feel scary, but Davidson says the danger is actually relatively low.
As you're going through the course, it is perfectly safe. You're clipping yourself in as you go from one obstacle to the next.
Once you get the courage to take on the challenge, don't worry. Even if you fall, the ropes will catch you.
You follow the length of your lanyards, which ends up being about 3 total feet, and you just kind of sit down in your harness and then you would stand back up and try again.
It's not just safe for the participants. The course is designed to go easy on the trees as well.
So a lot of our courses are built in the way that we can just take them down and move to a different tree, so there's minimum impact on the trees.
But Davidson says the main thing that keeps Flagstaff alive is the feeling of being on top of the world. Until you finally reach the zip line.
You're up in the trees, you just clip yourself in and then you zip line right across. It's a freeing feeling.
This was Luna from Arizona Adventures. I had this amazing day up in the air with Flagstaff Extreme. Back to the studio.
That looked like a lot of fun. I wish I could have gone on that adventure.
Well, if you're not afraid of heights. But I'm willing to try. That's why Robin and I challenged each other in a little competition. We went to the climbing wall on NAU campus to see who would get to the closest to the top.
Well, let's take a look at how it went.
Are you ready?
Born ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go! Okay, stop, Robin, stop. You won. Oh my.
Well,
congrats.
Thank you very much. How does that feel?
It was so scary, honestly.
It was tough, right? But not as tough, it's wake surfing.
That was a lot of fun. We explored all these amazing activities around northern Arizona. We went from the water to the land and even up in the air.
Special thanks to our guest, Justin Denardi, who also taught us how to stay safe while having fun.
Thank you for watching the Arizona Adventure. We appreciate you being here with us on this journey.
From all of us here, thank you and slaap lekker.